Good evening. I'm Sophia Arena, Texpatriate staff writer, and this is our week in review. Tomorrow will be the last day for candidates to declare their candidacy in the upcoming Democratic or Republican primaries. Accordingly, it is tantamount to the filing deadline for next year's general election a full 11 months prior if one wishes to have a feasible candidacy. Despite talking a big game, Texas Democrats have yet to deliver on the promise of having competitive elections. This is most evident in Tarrant County, where despite starry-eyed predictions that the county housing Fort Worth would see a Democratic wave this election, most incumbent Republican office holders will end up running for re-election unopposed. Statewide, not a single Democrat has announced their candidacy for any of the open judicial posts on the Supreme Court or Court of Criminal Appeals. Between these 7 statewide elections, Democrats have 0 candidates. A few more Democrats did file, however, for the U.S. Senate and for the Railroad Commission, the latter of which regulates energy business and actually has nothing to do with railroads. Harry Kim, a dentist from Odessa, as well as Rowan McCallan, an architect from Houston, announced their candidacies for the Democratic primary to run against U.S. Senator John Cornyn. Also running will be Kesha Rogers, a perennial candidate who's affiliated with the Lyndon LaRouche movement, a cultish fringe group that supports conspiracy theories. All these candidates will face Maxie Scher and Michael Fetland in the primary. Meanwhile, Dale Henry, the Democratic candidate for the Railroad Commission in both 2006 and 2012, will run once more for the post. He will face off against Stephen Brown, the former chairman of the Fort Bend Democratic Party, in the primary. At the local level, a few other big candidates emerged. Susan Criss, a longtime district judge in Galveston, announced her candidacy for the state legislature. Ahmad Hassan, a perennial candidate who has previously run for office as a Republican, announced his intention to seek the post of county judge in the Democratic primary. At press time, he had no opponents. In state policy news, 2 members of the long-plagued Cancer Prevention Research Institute of Texas were indicted on charges of fraudulently doling out contracts without requisite approval. CPRIT has long been a bottomless source of consternation for Governor Perry. His opponents have used already the scandal to paint both the governor and the attorney general as corrupt and complicit. Additionally, the gubernatorial candidate Tom Pauken officially dropped out of the race this week, citing financial shortcomings. Pauken, a former chairman of the Texas Republican Party, had been running closer to the center than Attorney General Greg Abbott, now largely seen as the presumptive nominee. Around Houston, State Senator John Whitmire was also in the news this week for bringing to light a recent scandal involving Rice University's police department. In an incident that occurred in August, but was only brought to light this week, Rice police mercilessly beat an unarmed suspect in an incident caught on film. Resting on the assertion that Rice is a private institution, the university refused to conduct an open investigation or release other pertinent details of the incident. This made Senator Whitmire livid as he declared to news media that he would be proposing bills in Austin's next legislative session to require such private institutions' police forces to adhere to the same standards of transparency and openness as public forces. The Houston City Council was also in the news this week as Mayor Anise Parker officially unveiled her new ordinance regulating payday lending stores. The stores, which regularly charge high interest rates and include lots of restrictions in fine print, have been heavily regulated by every other major city in the state, which Mayor Parker is now seeking to duplicate. While many city council members appeared warm to the idea, others were not. Democrats such as C.O. Bradford and Jerry Davis, as well as Republicans such as Helena Brown and Dave Martin, expressed immense skepticism with the legislation. Perhaps the most surprising opponent of the ordinance was City Councilmember James Rodriguez, a Democrat whose district rules many of these payday lending stores. Rodriguez, of course, is term limited, and there will be a runoff election next Saturday to choose his successor. Rodriguez's hand-picked favorite to succeed him, Graciana Garces, has not taken a definitive position on the ordinance, though her campaign has been heavily bankrolled by lobbyists representing these payday lenders. Garces' opponent, Robert Gallegos, who unequivocally supports the ordinance, has roundly criticized her for lack of position. Finally, early voting has begun for the municipal runoff election on December 14th. 5 city council races, including 2 at-large contests, will be on the ballot alongside HCC trustee races. Texpatriate has endorsed David Robinson in at-large 2, Michael Kubosh in at-large 3, Brenda Stardig in District A, Dwight Boykins in District D, and Robert Gallegos in District I. On a sadder note, Texpatriate also mourns the death of Nelson Mandela this past week. As a fighter for the oppressed and for liberty and justice, Mandela helped to shape a freer and more equal world. His 50-year struggle to end apartheid caught the attention of the world, as he eventually led a nonviolent movement to bring about majority rule in his country. We have also opened voting for our second annual Texpatriate Person of the Year contest. Candidates this year include Attorney General Greg Abbott, Senator Ted Cruz, State Senator Wendy Davis, Mayor Annise Parker, Governor Rick Perry, and others nominated by readers. This is our week in review.